Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. I am not joined by my two co-hosts today, but I am even more blessed this afternoon being joined by none other than Mr. Tim Hightower, Director of Alumni Relations for the Washington football team. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, Tim. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Just getting ready for this big weekend and big game this weekend, big alumni homecoming weekend. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, a big game to say the least. The big reason why I wanted you on here, Mr. Hightower, is because you played for this Saints team back in 2015, 2016 under Sean Payton, and obviously you're with the Washington football team now. Going into it, like, did you think that Sean Payton would attack that game plan like he did yesterday?
You know what? I have nothing but love and respect for Sean Payton, man. I've seen that guy at work. He's an offensive genius. He is very well prepared. He has his coaches well prepared. He's going to make sure that the players are well prepared. They understand scheme. He really does a really good job of understanding what the weaknesses and the tendencies are of the opponent, right? And what are the keys to victory? We used to start every single Monday meeting with what were the keys to victory. And it was all statistically backed, right? If we win the rushing battle here, if we win the turnover battle here, if we win the third down conversion battle, if we win the field position, here's where this team has struggled in the past. Here's where we feel like we have an advantage, and really getting the team to buy in, to understand, here's the weakness, here's the strategy. And if we buy into these things, we're going to win this game. And I think that's what he does a great job of. And they clearly had a strategy coming into this game.
Yeah, and that being said, you just brought up the field position battle, and that being something that Sean Payton talks about and is obviously in his meetings before games. That did happen because it seemed like in the Taylor Heinicke's second interception, he kind of was getting tired of having to be pinned back because of their punter, just kicking these bombs, keeping us within the 5-yard line at all times, and Taylor got fed up with it and threw a pick there. So to your point, I mean, how good is their punter? I mean, I thought Tressway was one of the best in the league, but this kid from the Saints, he was good.
Well, look, now it speaks volumes. I remember Thomas Morstead is a longtime punter. He was there. I mean, one of the hardest workers I've ever been around. And I mean, he was phenomenal. Thomas Morstead was phenomenal. And for them to move on for Thomas Morstead from somebody who was a leader in the locker room, he was a top punter in the league for years. They had to know something, right? There's somebody who they had, and there's some faith, and it showed yesterday. I mean, that guy was outstanding yesterday, and he definitely. It doesn't show up a lot of times in the stats sheet,
right?
Although it looked like he got a lot of recognition. But that field position, when you're backed up, when you're starting drives inside the 10-yard line consistently, it's hard to go 90 yards drive in and drive out. It starts to wear, as you talked about. Offenses start to get antsy. It messes up your play calling, the rhythm, your play calling. You're not as offensive. You're defensive, right? You're trying to limit your turnovers. You're not as aggressive. So there's a lot of that hidden yardage, which started with that field position, and that punter did a tremendous job yesterday.
Yes, he did, man. That kid was lights out yesterday. And look, the Washington football team lost 33-22, and one of the biggest plays of the day was the Hail Mary at the end of the half. Yeah. I know you've played a lot of football in your day, Mr. Hightower. Have you ever seen that before, and what was your reaction?
I mean, you see it often. You see it often. You execute that play. Being on the offensive side, it's something that you run. You know the odds of you actually converting that play are slim to none, but yet you execute it, right? Everyone has a spot. You got three guys. You got a point man. You got a guy behind it. You got two guys in case he tips it either way, right? So you got kind of a diamond set up, and you try to execute it as best as you can. But again, you understand that there are a lot of things that have to come together for you to execute that play. On the defensive side, hey, knock the ball down. Don't try to catch it. Don't tip it up in the air. Knock it down, right? And so you understand how challenging it is to pull that play off. But from a defensive side, we just, it was amazing play by them. We just didn't get it done.
No, we did not. And you being a former running back, Mr. Hightower, Antonio Gibson yesterday, 20 rushes, 60 yards, but had 2 touchdowns on the ground. How did you think that he looked yesterday?
You know what? He showed flashes. He showed flashes. He had some good, strong runs. the talent's there. We know it's there. It looked like they tried to get J.D. McKissick a little involved as well. But you got to sustain drives. You got to extend drives. So that way now, 20 carries is great, but can we sustain? Can we win the third down battle? Can we get some positive runs on you're looking at 3 yards a carry. You want to get to that 4 yards a carry clip. You want to start getting J.D. McKissick in there on third down and third and short and get some one-on-one matchups. So, I think Antonio looked great. I don't think we see the talents there. Protecting the football is the main thing. But can we get that yards per carry up to almost 4 yards a carry? And can we start getting in some more manageable third downs, third and short? So that way you can start to exploit a lot. You have a lot more at your playbook when it's third and short as opposed to third and 6, 7, 8, and with the backup field.
Yeah, and with your experience being in the NFL, because obviously J.D. McKissick was heavily utilized against Atlanta, and maybe that was matchup based, Mr. Hightower. Yeah. But do you think there is something to it where because in this game he only had 2 carries for -1 yards and 1 catch for 8 yards. Do you think that they were kind of like easing him back a little bit because of how hard he went last week?
No. You never look. You don't. You use your guys. You want to have the best. And I'm sure. That Ron could attest to the same thing. You want the best guys on the field at all times, right? They said time to conserve. Guys got to be ready to go. Unless they're injured, you may have a pitch count or snap count for them. But no, it's matchup, right? It's matchups. You come into the game understanding, hey, we've got on trips, on trips formation on the backside. We have we got a one-on-one matchup with that linebacker. We like this formation, right? So what's the matchup, right? Can I exploit the matchup? And then secondly, it's the flow of the game, right? The flow of the game, if it's turnovers, if it's field position, the flow of the game dictates your play calling. It dictates what you can do. It dictates your strategy. And so I think yesterday that they weren't able to get into a rhythm, right? And so I think that's probably more so dictated as opposed to them limiting his snap count.
Yeah, and then on defense, you can attest to basically 2 plays that ended the day yesterday for this team. Obviously, we went over the Hail Mary already, but the other one was shortly thereafter, or before that, and that was a 70-yard bomb that was over Landon Collins. Yeah. It looked like they caught him in a bad situation. It seems like this is an accumulation, Mr. Hightower, of multiple weeks that giving up big plays. It's the one thing they don't want to allow, but it seems like it continues to rear its ugly head. Have you been on a team that's had an issue with getting off the field, stopping big plays? And is there any advice, or not advice, but is there anything that you've seen that could possibly help a team kind of get over this kind of these woes?
Yeah, that's it. Communication is key. You got a quarterback on offense who's hopefully communicating and getting guys and the center and the quarterback, the center, with the protections, quarterback with the routes, with the shifts, adjustments, all these things. And then defense, you got a linebacker and you got a safety. Between that middle linebacker and that safety, and that's where you see the injuries sometimes coming into it. You got Jamin as a young linebacker. Who is going to be that guy to get the checks, right? To get the guys in the right gaps. Who is going to be that guy? Is it Landon? Who is the guy communicating to make sure we're all on the same page, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's that. You just got to continue to get on the same page. And somebody's got to emerge and be that guy and be that leader. And then defensively, from a play call, it doesn't seem that they're doing things that are too complex. It seems pretty vanilla as far as their, rush 4, drop 7, or rush 4, some kind of twist. They're not bringing a lot of overload blitz or overload blitzes or anything like that. So the other thing you think communication, but then you also think simplify the scheme, right, and let guys just play fast, right? And so that's one of those things that at a certain point you say, hey, we're not communicating. Do we have the right guys to get the job done, to execute the assignments? And if not, how can we limit and simplify things to where guys feel confident that they can play fast and physical?
Yeah, and speaking of physical, I absolutely loved the new W that the team unleashed yesterday, the pink W for Breast Cancer Awareness Month that was at FedEx Field. That looked amazing. Were you able to check that out?
Man, you know what? That whole day, I think it's the NFL, but our organization did a tremendous job. It was great too. I got a chance to be at our WOW event and see some of the breast cancer survivors, and it's such a huge event, and for us to really continue to honor a lot of those women in that community. It was great to see. You hear a lot of stories, you get a chance to meet a lot of people. So I'm glad that we're emerging and establishing ourselves as leaders in that space and supporters in that space.
Yeah, and hopefully that W stays, to be perfectly honest. And then we already talked about the two bad plays that happened on defense, but on offense, the other two was Taylor Heineke. What did you think about his performance? You like the fact that he's a
Yeah.
gunslinger, but it seems like at times he just doesn't make the right decisions. And we've gone through this with many years for the Washington football team. So the fan base is kind of panicking today, saying, Taylor's not the guy. He's not the guy. What do you think of Taylor right now?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, that guy, he's resilient as they come, man. It's you see him get hit, take some of those hits on some of those blitzes. He lays there for a second. Is he going to get up? Is he going to lay down? He's a confident guy. He's not willing. He's not shy. He's not too shy to step up and make that throw. With that, people got to remember this is his first year truly starting, right, and getting some consecutive games under his belt. The guy emerged in the playoffs last year, right? And so, to me, I feel like he's done a very good job of managing what he has been given. He's moved the ball consistently. He's made some good throws. Even after the pick, he still stepped up and responded and delivered well, delivered the ball in some key situations. You had a 3rd and long, you had a 4th and long there at the end of the game to keep them in the game. So, poor throw. I'm sure he wished he could have had back.
Right.
But some of these things just come with time, with reps, with starting and knowing that you're that guy, and they have to have that flexibility to know I'm going to force that one in there. He tried to get that over there, over the linebacker, over the safety. A quarterback has to know that he has the green light to trust his arm, to trust his receivers, and make some of those throws. But how does he respond coming off of that? And I think he does a great job of responding. I think it's just a matter of just getting the reps and knowing when to take those chances at what point in the game and when not to take some of those chances, especially backed up in your own field position.
Yeah, I think you're so right about that because like the whole Kirk Cousins thing, like wouldn't you rather a quarterback that takes chances than a quarterback that is kind of reluctant to take chances? You'd rather the first part of that, right? And the other one being a wide receiver in Curtis Samuel. Obviously the groin injury has been hampering for about 5 months.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for an update or anything like that, but can you kind of try to educate us as fans, like for an athlete, why that groin injury can be so lingering and how it's so tough to kind of overcome?
Well, you got to think about it. Everything starts from your core, right? Your groin connected to your core, and so if there's something pulling, you're always, first of all, it's tough to come into a season with an injury. It's rare that you see a player coming into a season with an injury and then having a breakout year, right? You're playing catch up already, right? And so understanding that, right? He tried to get out there a little bit during training camp. He wasn't quite ready, and then he's coming back. Your body is trying to adjust. Your body is trying to adapt. You're changing up your running motion. You're changing up your cut. You're changing up things that you do so instinctively. And now you start to have lingering issues in other places, right? So you see that. I mean, he's fighting. He's doing treatment around the clock. He's fighting to get back out there with his team. But it's tough when you start the season playing catch up and you're trying to it's hard enough to stay healthy as it is during the season in the 17-week stretch. But when you come in there with nagging, lingering injuries, your body's playing catch up, man. It's really hard to do.
Yeah, and obviously the big news around Washington up until this point was Chase Young, the number 2 overall pick. Him getting into the sack column, he got his first strip sack of the season on Jameis Winston. Daron Payne scooped it up. What did you see from Chase Young? Do you see a guy that's maybe kind of putting too much pressure on himself to get those numbers when in reality it doesn't really matter? Or you see just a kid trying to grow into a dominant pass rusher that he's very capable of?
First of all, I see a guy who's in year 2. And here's the thing. Excuse me. Here's the thing that people that people forget. They get paid too. Is what a coach used to always tell me. Hey, look, Tim, they get paid too. Meaning you can only sneak up on people so many times, right? Like he's now had opposing teams in NFC and in the division and all across the league. You have established yourself as a dominant force, as a Pro Bowl defensive rookie, of the year. You got a target on your back now. We're going to shift our protections to you. We're going to do all these things. We're going to chip. We're going to do everything that we can to slow you down. Where in the first year, you weren't the focal point, right? And so We're going to take away your tendencies. We're going to move. We're going to shift. We're going to motion. We're going to do all those things where you struggle. And so, one, I see a guy who's in year 2 who teams have had a whole offseason to prepare for. 2, I do think it's some of that pressure that, there's a lot of pressure on this defense. You have a lot of hype to live up to when saying that you're coming into the season saying you're the number 1 defense. That's a lot to live up to. And a player who's very competitive like Chase, who's as hard of a worker as they come, he's trying to outdo what he did last year. And so now you're pressing. Now you don't get it in the first game. You don't get in the second game. You don't get in the first quarter. You're pressing. So, I mean, hey, look, the guy's a hard worker. He holds himself accountable. He holds his teammates accountable. You know it's going to click. It's just a matter of, can you find that right balance between relying on your teammates, that when you're being double teamed, when it's not going your way, let them step up and make the plays. And you keep working at it, and soon it'll come back to you. It always does for guys who work like him.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, Tim. Now, to wrap this up, I have a 2-part question for you. My first one being, it's a lot of doom and gloom today, obviously, rightfully so, with the Washington football team. But are there any bright spots that you think that the fan base can really take in from yesterday?
Look, we're still in this thing. First of all, we haven't played Dallas, and you see Dallas is trying to pull away with it. They're hot right now. They're playing with a lot of confidence. Dak is throwing the ball well. They got a guy on defense playing the ball really well. We haven't played them. Now, we have some games to get to them. We got to focus on the schedule. We got to focus on Kansas City. But we're still in it in the division, right? And that's the first thing that you got to focus on is win the division, right? That was always our first order of business, win the division, right? And so we have that in front of us. We won our last division game. We still got Philly in front of us. We got Dallas in front of us. We got New York again. We're still there, right? And so that's what, if I'm Ron, if I'm that coaching staff, guys, we're 2-3, but we're still there in our division, right? Let's just let's focus on what we can control. And as we saw last year, it wasn't pretty.
Nope.
But we won the games that we needed to win, and we got in there and we gave ourselves a chance. We put ourselves in a position to do something special, right? And so taking that from last year, and that's the only bright spot. You want to take whatever bright spot that you can, and that's my bright spot. That would be my advice. Man, we are still in control of our destiny. We have not played. We haven't played our full division yet. So let's keep that in perspective.
I absolutely love that, Tim. Now, to wrap this up, my last one for you. I heard you've been very, very busy as of lately, and I think that there's some big plans for this weekend for the Alumni going up against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh man, that's we got Alumni homecoming, man. So we got all the greats, all the legends coming in town. I'm excited, man. We got 100+ guys who will be at this game. Excited to, with all the name change and the rebrand and all that stuff. You got the guys who are affiliated with this organization, who are tied. They bleed burgundy and gold, man, and it'll be good to host them and to have them come out and cheer the team on and get a chance to engage with the fans as well. So we hope we have some special things planned to engage with some fans, and so we hope everyone comes out this week and gets a chance to interact with some of the legends.
Absolutely. What a great game to be able to bring all the alumni in for, going against the Kansas City Chiefs. What a great time to do that. And Mr. Hightower, I can't thank you enough for, again, taking time out of your busy day to come join us. Real quick before you go, you want to plug some of your social media handles so people can come follow you.
Oh, look, just Tim Hightower. Just Hightower. More importantly, man, I want everybody to support the squad, man. We need all the love and support here in the DMV and beyond, man. This team the leadership is there. This team is there. We're getting there. And it's just good the one thing I will finish with, I saw a lot of black and gold in those stands on Sunday. And I know who their fans, look, I played there. I know they're loyal, but somehow, some way, man, we got to restore that home field advantage and the pride. As a player, you see it, you feel the energy, man. So we need all the loyal Burgundy and Gold fans. We need that stadium packed out. And Pat Mahomes and crew come to town.
Hey, you heard it from Mr. Hightower himself, everybody. Get your butts to FedEx Field this weekend. Man. Mr. Hightower, you have a great day, sir. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. Have a great night, sir.
All right.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the Mr. Hightower. I absolutely love having him on because him playing for the New Orleans Saints and the Washington football team, it's a great way to kind of look at this football team and how this game and how it transpired. But before we get into our next guest, the Burgundy Zone is part of Listen Frederick, a curated network of local podcasts produced in and focused on the Frederick area. Along with highlighting local talent, Listen Frederick hopes to bring local stories, voices, and personalities together to create a podcast community. Listen Frederick is part of the Manning Media family, home of Key 103 and 106.9 The Eagle. You can check out more about us and other shows on the network at www.listenfrederick.com. Now, we are currently going to be joined by the man himself, Mr. Michael Phillips of the Richmond Times Dispatch. I'm so lucky to have him come on here and join me to kind of talk about what a depressing time this is. How you doing, Michael? Are you there, sir? Oh, doesn't look like he's here yet. Unfortunately. It's all good, though. Until he does, it's fine. I'm going to sit here and go with you guys over our fan questions. And our first one that we're going to go with is Mr. Ian Bacon. And he wants to know, do we not train to defend the Hail Mary? And look, man, I don't think that was the issue about the training for the Hail Mary, because the whole aspect is that it's coming. There's 8 seconds left on the clock. But the fact is, I believe that Landon Collins had said they thought that they were going to be that the Saints were going to be running a quick out, that they were going to be trying to get the ball outside fast so that they can stop the clock and kick a field goal. So the logic kind of tells you there, Ian, well, why are you so focused on an out route for giving up a field goal when the Hail Mary is obviously there? And it's like kind of that situational awareness, kind of a damage assessment. What would you rather have go against you? A field goal at the end of the half or a Hail Mary? And honestly, it's come to proven right now here, Ian, that the Hail Mary was demoralizing. Because I'll tell you right now, I think that took the wind and energy out of that football team, having that go down. Hey, we are now joined by our second guest, Mr. Michael Phillips. Again, Mr. Funny Man himself from the Richmond Times Dispatch. Thank you so much for joining me today. Michael, how are you doing?
Hey, good to be here.
Yes, sir. First thing I have to ask you, sir. This defense, as bad as it looked early on, they did better in the second half. But is there something to this? Is this like an accumulation? What has to happen for this defense to change at this point?
And I thought yesterday the line played a lot better. I really did. I thought they were getting good pressure. I think Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, and Matt Ioannidis, obviously, I think those guys in the middle have been really good all year. So I'm exempting them from this discussion. But I thought Chase Young picked up the pace yesterday. I thought Montez picked up the pace a little yesterday. So I'm pleased with the progress there. If we just left it there, you'd say, hey, these guys are getting better. But I don't see where the secondary is getting better. I don't know if you guys see it. I'm missing it. This improvement that William Jackson's talking about, that Ron Rivera's talking about, these strides they're making, I'm completely missing it. It seems like a group that still, it just has no clue what they're doing at any given time, is not in the right places. And, look, we excuse the linebackers because they are what they are. Like, if you trot out John Bostic, Cole Holcomb, and a rookie, you get what you're going to get. And that is unfortunate because I don't think they're all that great, but I also don't think anybody could fairly say, like, why isn't John Bostic playing at an all-pro level? Like, well, he's not. We have an entire career's worth of evidence to know exactly what John Bostic is, and he's John Bosticking at a John Bostic level right now. Like, that's who he is. But Landon Collins, man, he's making a lot of money. William Jackson is making a lot of money. Kendall Fuller, a lot of money. Bobby McCain was the captain of Miami. He's a guy who's allegedly a good football player. It is not working right now.
No, it's not, and it has looked putrid thus far. My question to you, Michael, I wanted to go to you with, is a lot of people have been saying that Terry McLaurin kind of got shadowed by Marcus Lattimore, was taken out of the game, where I don't really think it was on Terry at that point, because honestly, the ball wasn't getting thrown to him very well. What did you think of Terry's game yesterday? Did you think he was muffled at all?
Yeah, he was clearly frustrated as the game went on, but he was frustrated because the balls weren't in a catchable spot for him. This is, I'm a Taylor Heineke guy, and I'll go to bat for my guy, but we got to call it like we see it. it was his worst outing of the season yesterday, and thus his worst outing as a Washington football team player. The Saints pressured him well. They made him make bad decisions. They waited out his bad decisions. He put a lot of balls in places where they were not catchable, or obviously on the interceptions where they were catchable by the other team. It is one he will absolutely have to go back to the drawing board on. You can't have that at the NFL level. Now, I'm not saying you got to bench him right away, because look, I'm not sure that Kyle Allen's going to give you a lot more, to be honest. And I'm not sure Kyle Allen wins that Giants game or wins that Falcons game. You needed what Heinicke brought to the table to win those games. But if the defense gives you anything yesterday, I think Taylor Heinicke needs to send a nice thank you note to that secondary, to William Jackson. If they do anything yesterday, and this is like a 3-point loss, that Hail Mary doesn't happen, I think we're a lot more critical today of saying Taylor Heinicke's probably wearing the L. As it is, the defense wears it too. But he was a big reason for it, no question.
Yeah, and that a lot of people have talked about that second interception and how bad that was, trying to feed it in between two defenders. They had him draped over top and below. But I still think the first interception was worse. Curtis Samuel had a step on the defender, and he didn't even throw it to the back of the pylon. He threw a duck. It didn't even hit the front pylon, and it was an easy catch for the DB. What is Taylor seeing there?
It beats me. I think he saw it correctly. I think he just made a bad throw. And
right.
I think we saw, his arm strength's always going to be a topic of discussion, because it's not as good as, probably 25 to 30 of the other NFL quarterbacks. That's what it is. But at the same time, throw like that is a throw he's capable of making. Was he rushed? Was he rolling through? Whatever the reasoning might be, he'll have to go back and figure that out. But it's so bad for so many reasons. Yeah, one, you're looking at it. That's not a blind faith throw. You're looking at it. You don't make the throw. And two, it's in the red zone. You took points off the board. Like in that scenario, a worst case outcome should be you fling the ball into the third row of the stands and you get 3 points. And we all complain that you only got 3 points. Like 3 should be the absolute worst outcome once that snap is made.
Absolutely. And now, obviously, Ron Rivera is feeling the heat a little bit, and the fan base are getting riled up. A lot of people have said the Rivera honeymoon is officially over, Mr. Phillips. But my question to you is, do you think that they are getting too much? Because personally, when I look at this game, it's hard to pinpoint and who's at fault for these first 5 weeks, because it almost seems like an accumulation of everyone. Everyone has a hand into this pile as to why they're so bad right now. So my question to you is, do you think the coaching staff is getting too much heat?
Well, Jack Del Rio talked about this the other week. We were asking him, hey, these miscommunications in the secondary, like, who's that on? And he said, well, it's always on the coaches. And what he meant was not it's always the coach's fault, but it's the coach who gets fired if it doesn't get fixed. Right. He's not an idiot. He understands how this works. If they don't get it fixed, he's the one whose job gets lost, because he can't fire the players. They got the guaranteed money there. I tend to put a bulk of the blame on the players in the secondary. I don't know what it is about this specific group and working together. It seems like they are unable to do it. I find it hard to believe that Jack Del Rio, who has been in the NFL for a very long time, has suddenly developed a scheme so complex that these highly paid football players are somehow unable to execute it. That feels like a touch. Like, this has worked for so long, and now all of a sudden this year it has magically become too much. It just feels like a reach to me. And Ron Rivera obviously had Jack's back. In the post-game press conference and the Monday press conference, you heard him saying that absolutely not to making any changes. The other factor here is, look at who they're playing these next two, Chiefs and Packers. Yeah. When you make a change, you do it to get a bump, to get a little surge. You don't saddle the new guy with 2 losses right out of the gate and everybody is still riled up. If you remember when Bill Callahan got installed as the interim coach, they did it going into that Miami game where the Dolphins were so bad. They knew they were going to start Bill Callahan off with a win and some good feelings, and they almost blew it too.
Yeah, they almost lost. I remember that.
but it seems like ill-advised to make changes into the teeth of a Chiefs-Packers double dip here that in all likelihood will not turn out well.
Yeah, and Sam Cosmi, the prize second-round pick, has been – I have personally think has been the best offensive lineman they've had up until this point. He got banged up yesterday, did not return into the game with an ankle injury. I thought Cornelius Lucas did very well coming in relief of him. Have you heard anything on Sam Cosmi? Is it looking serious? What do you expect with him?
No, he got his ankle rolled up on. So, it's always you wait until the swelling goes down and you see, is it something that's going to be a couple of weeks? Is it something that he's going to be able to play through? Obviously, he came back into the game, tried to play through it. It just didn't work for him. So he's going to have to figure out that element of being in the NFL and making sure he takes care of himself for the long run. I agree with you. He's my rookie of the year pick to this point, too. I think, he's been the best of that rookie class so far. Now, look around the board. That is actually not saying a lot, but I do think he's playing very well. I think that he's had a great season so far. I hope he can get back out there, but I think let's give props to the O-line as a whole.
Yeah,
I mean,
seriously.
they have done very well. They have done the job they need to do, and I think they've been really helped by Antonio Gibson, who's been outstanding as a running back, and I think they've really been helped by Taylor Heineke, whose mobility and ability to extend plays, can bail them out of situations. But I think that's a group that overachieved last year and is overachieving this year. I think you got to be quite pleased with what you're seeing.
Yeah, I was pleased with Wes Schweitzer. I rewatched the
No
game
doubt.
today, and I had the first quarter on, and he pancaked the guy within the first couple plays. Like, okay, he's back to form. He's ready to go like usual. But my next question to you is, Jamin Davis, only on the field for 13 snaps yesterday. Coach can say, and I know what they're going to say, that they had a game plan set up, and that's what they were going to do with it. But the fact being is Jamin Davis actually benefits from that scheme of being in the open space, being out in coverage. That didn't go. What I saw was he missed an assignment on 2 different holes that allowed the Alvin Kamara touchdown, and it seemed like they pulled the plug on him. So in my opinion, why are they pulling the plug on Jamin and not these other guys? So my opinion to you is, what's going on with Jamin, and why are they kind of not giving him more time?
Yeah, because you could separate out those two things. You can say it was a deserved plug pulling there on Jamin Davis. Clearly, he was getting beat. I think that's a defensible thing there that Jamin Davis, wasn't playing as well as they needed him to play. So yeah, part 2 of that question is a fair one. How come Cam Curl's not out there more? Like how come Jeremy Reeves doesn't get called up for the practice squad to be given a shot like that? Those are exceptionally fair questions that I would love to get an answer to in the coming days.
Isn't DeShazier Everett suiting up? And he's playing special teams, right?
Absolutely. It was a JP Finland, the free Shays hashtag. Like, you don't have to bang your head against the wall. There are options available here. And as they prove, they are willing to, sit a player who's not performing up to expectations. I want to see a lot more of those guys in the coming weeks. You got nothing to lose. I want to see a lot more DeShazier Everett, a lot more Cam Curl. I think guys who are making plays and playing the right way deserve to get more playing time.
Yeah, and now my question to you, Phillips, this is going to be a tough one for you, but where did they lose the game?
Well, on the Hail Mary. I don't know.
You think it was there?
A million different things.
Right,
And
right.
certainly, if we're serving up some blame pie, Taylor Heineke is eating a large slice of it, and the secondary is eating a very large slice of it, and the coaching's probably, they're there at the table too, throwing down. That was, just, I'm still just baffled thinking about it. A college team could have defended that better because they would have jumped at least. That was everything we've hated to see this season, like all encapsulated in one play. And if that doesn't happen, the answer is Heineke that I'm giving you. But because that just stands out, like it's such a big, gigantic play of the game and so deflating. And you go back and watch the replay and just realize, like, oh man, like these guys were just, they were caught with their pants down out there. It was ugly.
And the worst part is that Landon Collins in his presser after the game, he said that they weren't prepared for it because they were thinking that the Saints wanted to get a quick out in order to stop the clock to gain enough time to kick a field goal. But my point is, why aren't you in zone at that point? Why not have a defender shallow on the sideline, but at least keep 2 guys deep just to make sure to say, okay, yeah, if you want to go to the sideline, go deeper, but you're going to take more time off. I don't.
It's not outrageous to think they were going to do that and to defend against that, but that still doesn't explain for why 6 guys were there and nobody jumped. Like, we're still missing that portion of the explanation here.
Yeah.
Did they forget that Hail Marys existed? I don't know.
Oh, dude, it's sometimes with this team, man, it just irks you, doesn't it? Now, my next question for you is, What are they going to do defensively, Michael? Because I know the coach kind of said they're not going to make these crazy changes. They're not going to do all of this. But from what you can see, being around this football team, are there any changes they can make to correct this? Because at this point, it almost seems like this is who they are.
Well, here's what you've got. You've got Chiefs coming into town, and Patrick Mahomes is really good at football. But we all watched. I watched last night. The Bills threw some good stuff at him, and the Bills slowed him down. I think that's probably about the best you're ever going to hope for against Patrick Mahomes. I think it was 20, but what's your number? 25, 27. If you can go in and say, hey, we're going to hold Patrick Mahomes to 28 today, I think you say, hey, look, that Chiefs defense is really bad. I think we can get out of here with the W, and I think you can. So you watch that, you learn from that. It's Sean McDermott up there in Buffalo, so obviously there's the commonalities. They're going to know what they're looking at on the tape. You got to find a way to do that. It's not unreasonable to think this defensive line can do the things they need to do to hold Patrick Mahomes in check. Now, I say in check, that did 28. You're 28 when I say keep him in check. Like that's the number. But if Heineke can get back to doing what he does, he can score more than 28 on this defense. It's a bad defense. And I'm talking myself into it here. It's very unlikely, obviously, because your wild card factor here is if Mahomes goes deep and he can get those splash plays, it's all over. You're going to have to get the back end cooperation to make everything work. And the Bills had that last night, man. They had guys on those Chiefs receivers. We haven't seen coverage like that in a game we've watched this season here with the Burgundy and gold. It just hasn't happened yet. So to say it's doable, and I think the Vegas line speaks to that. It's only 6.5. You probably would have guessed a lot bigger number, coming out of the gate. 6.5's the number. So they see something. They see that this is a Patrick Mahomes who has been slowed by opposing defenses this year. And this is a defensive line built to do that sort of containing. I think Chris Collinsworth said last night, Washington D-line, man, they're built to get after guys like Patrick Mahomes. They are, but they need the help from the secondary, and they're not getting it right now, and there's no indication it's coming either. So look, when I turn in the pick this week, I'm not picking these guys. I'm picking the Chiefs because I don't see how after 5 weeks you can guess that help's going to arrive. But if it does, I don't think it's completely outrageous. I think Vegas sees it. I think the national folks see it. There's a path to victory here that involves Heineke getting back to form, playing his guts out against a really bad defense, which he's been successful against bad defenses so far, and then slowing down Patrick Mahomes. The formula is there. It's hard to feel good about it after watching what we watched Sunday.
Yeah, and you bring up the Chiefs. They're one of the worst teams in the league against tight ends. We saw that last night with Dawson Knox with the great game that he had. And Ricky Seals-Jones yesterday, he had 5 receptions for 41 yards on 8 targets. How did you think he did yesterday? Because personally for me, I was very impressed with his play so far for a guy that not many expected to even make the roster this year. And then do you think he's going to be continuing to have a big impact moving forward?
Excellent. And let's call out another guy too, Deandre Carter. Yeah. Another guy who was absolutely roster bubble, only made it because of his return abilities.
4 receptions, 62 yards.
I mean, he really looked good out there as a receiver, running Chris Sprouts, pulling the ball in. Both those guys step up in a big-time way, and that's what you want to see as the season goes on. Every team's got injuries. Every team's got guys down. But when you have those guys who know the system, can run the system, Ricky Seals-Jones, that was a revelation. I did not see that coming. You hope he can build on it. You hope he continues playing well. We didn't see a lot of Bates, John Bates, the rookie tight end. I'd love to keep not seeing a lot of him because that means Ricky Seals-Jones is doing well out there. He's getting the job done. Deandre Carter getting the job done. He's running some good routes. I tip of the hat to those guys. They made it happen.
Now, to finish this up on a positive note, Phillips, I have 2 questions for you. The first one being what positives can the Washington football team build on as a fan base looking back on it to say, looking forward, this is what we learned yesterday in a good way?
Yeah, I would start with the resilience on offense. You've got guys who were down, guys went down during the game. Injuries have really struck on offense, and yet the replacement players came in and played at a high level. That speaks well of Scott Turner and his system. Bank that goodwill for when Scott Turner does something we all hate in 5 weeks and everybody's calling for his head. Maybe that can cancel itself out. It's always coming. Maybe it can cancel itself out with what we've seen here. And number 2 is the defensive line. I really was impressed. And man, those tackles are playing their butts off. I love Deron Payne. I think Matt Ioannidis is everybody understands what he is. And of course, Jonathan Allen, his play speaks for himself. Deron Payne, we have to speak for his play a bit because he's not a big sack guy, but he is an impact maker up front. That's what we wanted to see. That's what we were so excited about all offseason was those dudes pushing guys around, having fun, making plays. They got back to that a little bit yesterday. Very exciting to see that.
Absolutely. And then the other one is Curtis Samuel. Obviously, he came in yesterday. I liked what I saw from him originally, but he didn't last long. Obviously, he went out. He retweaked that groin injury. Anything that you're hearing? Obviously, they said he's week to week from now, but how optimistic are you about the Chiefs game with him?
No, he's going to be week to week all season, unfortunately. I mean, as Deshaun Jackson had some of these injuries. Santana Moss was out at the park the other day, said, look, just if those muscles don't get right as a receiver, it's not something that pops back into place. It's not something where you're going to wake up one day and magically it's better. It's something he's going to have to grind through all season long. So that's the bad news here. Amid the good news of the other receivers stepping up. Look, Samuel is really good and brings that extra dimension. You want as much of him as you can get. And I think that's the trade-off you're going to have to balance. If he doesn't feel right all year, you're just going to pick and choose your spots, try to get maximum effectiveness. But it's a tough spot for him to be in. I feel for him, fighting through it for 3 months. He's got another 3 months of fighting through it ahead of him. I don't think there's any light at the end of this tunnel before the year's over.
Last thing, Chiefs, Packers, Broncos, the next 3 games. Do you see a win in there?
Yes, I think they will get a win in those 3.
And the funny thing is, it'll probably be against the Packers.
Wouldn't that just be the ultimate? I mean, that is, of course, we'll have all the storylines that week, of course, going into Lambeau and Aaron Rodgers for next year, and leave a positive impression there and all that stuff. The Chiefs come at a good time. This is a good time, as good a time as any, to catch what I think is the best offense in football. This is the right time to get them. Now, you gave Matt Ryan a get-right game. You gave Jameis Winston a get-right game. There's a chance we walk out of there Sunday saying, why did we doubt Patrick Mahomes? He's the best. He's back to being the best. He's licking his chops at coming here, I'm sure. It's the right time to get them. And Denver, I'm not sold on Denver on being a juggernaut. I think they're fine. I think they're a good football team. But they got a lot of run early in the year that I'm not sure was fully deserved. Put me down for an L in Lambeau. It's a good football team.
I agree with you there. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, Michael. If you real quick before you go, if you want to plug in your social media handles in case people want to find where you work.
Absolutely. Richmond.com, Richmond Times Dispatch. If you're around here and want to pay your 50 cents, get a real actual live newspaper. And of course, Michael PRTD on Twitter.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michael. You have a great night, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Take care.
All right, Michael. Have a good night. All right, everybody, we just spoke with the man himself, Mr. Michael Phillips. That was absolutely fantastic, the kind of insight that he's providing with us. Because I am concerned about Curtis Samuel. And what Tim Hightower said about Curtis you never want a player going into the season with an injury because never happens where a player has a baller year going in with an injury. When he said that, it clicked like a light bulb in my head. I was like, man, he is absolutely right. But before we wrap up this episode, let's go into our fan questions. I'll try to rip these up as fast as I can for you guys. The first one is from our guy Zach at Keepers of the Den. He wants to know, is Jamin Davis really a wasted first-round pick, or is Jack Del Rio to blame for not letting him get him likes and learning into the system? I think there is a little mix there, to be perfectly honest with you, because remember, early on in the offseason, when they were working out Jamin, they didn't work him out at just the Will linebacker spot or the Sam linebacker position. They had him working as the Mike, learning everything, and that was going to hamper his development in the immediate future, but it was better for long-term success. Is Jamin Davis a wasted first-round pick? Without a doubt, no. That is way too early to say that. He is just slowly, not as quickly coming along as they would like to in the time that they need him to. I mean, what I think Coach Jack Del Rio had a comment in his presser last week when he said, this is the time that we need Jamin and Jamin needs us, kind of. And we haven't seen that. With only 13 snaps yesterday, I did not like that. Obviously, he gave up a huge hole in the run for the Kamara touchdown, but he needs more snaps, dude. 13 snaps is not enough. I don't want to put blame on anybody for this, honestly. Look, you could say, and yeah, should they have not have drafted Jamin in the first? Because look at Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I understand, but these are different situations. You have no idea if the Browns would have taken Jamin Davis, that he'd be doing the guy balling right now, and Jock wouldn't be the guy doing well. You never know what's going to happen here, ifs, ands, or buts, right? You don't want to get into that conversation. Jamin is going to pan out. It's going to take time, a lot longer than we originally anticipated and expected. But just know that that talent is going to reach his mind, and we are just have to be patient for when that happens. In the meantime, it's on the coaching staff to make this thing work. Make it work with him. Go to his strengths and make it work and gel around him. Right now, it seems like they're trying to find their footing. Thank you, Zach. That was a great question for you. Our man, Bobby Hutton, Mr. Famous Bobby Hutton, seems to be on TV and cameras all the time, wherever at FedEx Field. He wants to know, how's it going? It's going great. I went over to over the weekend, saw the brother-in-law get married. That was great. And then yesterday happened, and that sucked, dude. It was brutal. It's a winnable game. It was a completely winnable game. They were giving Washington chances early on, Bobby. Obviously, you were there and you saw it. Throwing up the pick, we forced punts early on. The offense just didn't gel. They didn't mesh. It's funny with this team. The offense has been like revving up on 8 RPMs. Right? They're up there. They've been going. And then the defense has been terrible. But then the Saints game, the defense kind of steps up a little bit and the offense drops off. And it's like, what is going on? Why can't you guys play together? Just formulate one game where the special teams, offense, and defense just comes together, because we needed that versus the Saints. But I don't want to kill Coach Rivera here, to be perfectly honest, with his press conference answers, because he's right. The game this is why the NFL is so important and crazy and the best sport in the world, because 2 plays literally ruined that game for them. The 72-yard bomb and then the Hail Mary pass. Those 2 all together, boom, gone. And you have to imagine Landon Collins is at fault for a lot of those. Look, I don't want to beat up on the guy too much, but he's continuously out of position. Nobody is going to be able to see it. But Bobby McCain was telling Landon Collins, hey, dude, this is the play. And Landon literally gives him like a hand back and is like, wait, I got it. Guess what? You get burnt because you're not paying attention. He wasn't even running full speed downhill because he didn't know there was a guy behind him. He wasn't paying attention. I don't understand why you're having him play deep center field without his eyes knowing what's coming at him. That is the worst thing possible for your deep free safety, to have a blind side with a receiver running behind him with having no idea. That's not what you're supposed to be there for. That pisses me off, Bobby. So how's it going? It's going great, besides the defense. Sorry, Bobby. Now our next question is from our guy Scott Hartley in the UK. He wants to know, when are you going to get on the Malik Willis train with me? I like Malik Willis a lot. I think he's Lamar Jackson reincarnated. You know, he is like a run dominant, but he can also throw inside the pocket. He's pretty accurate. He's got a little bit of ways to go as a passer, but beggars can't be choosers, right? I mean, I would absolutely love Malik Willis. I was a big Spencer Rattler guy. I don't think that he has performed well at all so far this season. I think the offensive line is putrid, but Caleb Thompson just completely threw that out the window as soon as he came into that game this past weekend. I don't care. I just want a quarterback, and this is a great time to be able to do that. There's a plethora of quarterbacks you're going to be able to choose from without having to trade up to get them. But if they did have to trade up to get them, I would absolutely love it. I think regardless, I would love Malik Willis, Scott. I would absolutely love him. But anyone at this point, I'm cool with. Even bring Aaron Rodgers to town, baby. Let's go win the championship next year. Now, his next question is, what can the team do to improve? Or is it time to blow up because they're not going to win the NFC East? They can improve. The crazy thing is, if you watch that Bills and Chiefs game last night, you see how a defense is supposed to perform. Coming up, making tackles in zone coverage. Nobody's out of position. When that ball outlet's there's somebody coming up and meeting the ball carrier, tackling them right away. You're not seeing these huge runs getting sprawled off and broken off. And this is like one of the best offenses in the league with Kansas City, and the Bills are playing a clinic on defense. That was so much fun to watch. I just wish that was the case. And like you're not seeing that with this defense. And it's just like nothing is clicking. So what has to improve? Everything. And I thought the defensive line did incredibly well. From what I saw originally, I thought that they weren't controlling the line of scrimmage, but that was before I saw that they went very heavy in the 5 down linemen. Because at that point, when you have 5 down linemen and 1 linebacker, what you're essentially doing is you're telling your defensive linemen that they have a bunch of responsibility, right? That they have to rush the passer, but they also have to clog up running lanes on top of doing all of that. And generally, they just want to clog up the lanes, like take blocks. They're not actually bringing down the ball carrier generally. But with the 5 down set, that's what they had to do. And Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Matt Ioannidis, they all did incredibly well at that. And so I wanted to give credit to them because they really did ball out there. And then on the backside of that, it's the defense and the communication. Because we had Logan Thomas on here last week, and he said he kind of wanted things to get simplified a little bit, not to make things so complicated. And that's what they were trying to get fancy with the Landon Collins botched play that resulted in a touchdown. They were trying to get fancy. Landon got caught staring in the backfield, not knowing where he was, and wasn't fast enough to keep up with Harris. Because if you watch the replay, if Landon would be running full speed uphill trying to chase Harris, he would have been there when the ball dropped. But originally, when he starts running upfield, he doesn't know that Harris is behind him, and he's just looking around, not running full speed. Very, very unfortunate, man. Very unfortunate. Now, our next guy is from Mike Puckett. My dude is making a rise on Twitter at getting everybody pissed off. He wants to know, does Landon Collins get traded? I don't think so, especially not for that number. With the way he's been playing, no, I don't think he gets traded. Nobody would be willing to give up anything, and we're not in a position to be trading him away right now because we're not getting much output out of that position. Now, if somebody were to come in and ball out in his position and show why he's expendable, then yeah, but at this point, there's nobody else that could step in unless they call up Jeremy Reeves or DeShazier Everett and say, let's see what they can do. Otherwise, Rivera can continue to sit here and say, this is who I have, this is what we got. He can sit there and say that excuse as long as he's not playing anybody there. Landon Collins is playing 100% of the snaps. Same with Bobby McCain. I would like to see Bobby and Scott, to your question before, how can they improve? I would like to see Bobby McCain be more moved as the slot corner that he's more used to doing. I know he got bludgeoned with that. And he's done well at the safety spot coming up and making tackles and stuff. But obviously that safety rotation is not working right now. They have to find a different combo because if you're going to point to all these different reasons why the defense is falling off, it's that safety tandem. That's what's really throwing everything out of whack. And I'm not going to say they are the reason everything sucks, but there's something coming from that. There is some substance there, and it has to be corrected. Do I think it's Landon by himself or Bobby by himself? No, but it is a combination there, and I want to find out why. Now, our next question is from Emmanuel Chaguba, my man from the Back Row Redskins podcast. If you haven't already, go check him out on Spotify, all your podcast platforms. Love him. He has a great question. Is it time to think about next year? Absolutely not, Manny. I'm different. I'm one of those dudes that still holds on hope for this football team and coming up with this 4-game stretch that they have going against the Chiefs, the Packers, the Broncos, and the Bucks. It's going to be rough sailing. But if they can escape with one, man, I'm very, very excited heading into this because this is iron sharpens iron. You know, they are going to have to be playing up to the level of these other teams. And if they can do that, they could go into this 5th game, into the back end of the season, going in against those divisional rivals. If they could go ahead going against those guys like the Bucks and the Chiefs and the Packers, playing up to their level, we can actually have a chance against the Cowboys. We can do it. Now, I know people are saying that the Giants are already a thing, that they won't beat the Giants. Come on, man. We already did. We can do it again. All right? I don't care what anyone says. That can happen. I don't care what you guys have to say at all. So, no, I don't think is it time to think about next year? It's not. The only time I'm thinking about next year is in February, mid-February after the Super Bowl, when I start looking at this draft and who they're going to be targeting. Now, our next question, thank you, Manny. Our next question is from Paul Murphy. He wants to know, what was your play of the day? And that is a great one. It really is, because it's hard to say. But I guess I'll say Chase Young strip sack. I thought that was absolutely beautiful because he comes up and he doesn't round the tackle, right? He goes straight at the tackle like Logan talked about, that straight line. And when the tackle, Remscheck, goes outside, Chase brings him inside, knocks the ball out of Jameis's hands, and Daron Payne scoops it up. That was the play of the day. That was when the Washington could have easily came in and had control over that football game by getting a touchdown right away and going up 10-0. But instead, going up 7-0. But instead, they get a field goal. They go 3-0, and then New Orleans goes down and hits over top of Landon Collins for that touchdown to make it 7-3. I thought that was the play of the day. And then the defense fell apart after that, obviously. Now, Paul's next question is, who was the most improved performer? And I know Chase Young is the easy one to say here, but I'm going to say Matt Ioannidis. I thought he was incredible yesterday. The way how much he pressured the quarterback, He had 4 tackles as a defensive lineman and 3 quarterback hits. He was pressuring all day yesterday and making sure that they could not just sit in that pocket. I thought the defensive line was very, very good. I thought Matt Ioannidis deserves a lot of credit because I was kind of harsh on him a couple weeks ago with Nick Akridge, saying that he didn't look like himself. But now he looks like the normal Matt Ioannidis, wreaking havoc, being the best defensive lineman. Is him and Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, dude. They really are very, very good. These are some of the best defensive tackles that the league has to offer besides Aaron Donald. And we have him here in Washington, and it's a lot of fun to watch him get up to speed again and going back to his original strength because, dude, is he good. Now our next question is from Jake Dutton. Is this team ever going to get back to, or getting better than mediocre? I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, every time you feel confident about this team, there seems to be something that shoots them in the foot, right? Every single time that you start to feel like they're starting to get something going, like the end of last season, you're sitting here thinking, okay, well, yeah, they had a losing record. And yeah, we shouldn't probably be too happy about them making the playoffs. But the fact is, they're on the right track, right? They got this thing going. We're in the right direction. And then this happens. And it's almost like, where's the disconnect? This is the same team that went to Pittsburgh last season, an undefeated Pittsburgh. They were healthy. The Pittsburgh's offense was entirely healthy. They stonewalled them, they held them under 20 points, and they won that football game. What the heck has happened? Where is the disconnect? I don't believe it's personnel. I don't believe that it's the scheme that is being run. There is something going on there, and that is my whole point about Landon Collins and Bobby McCain. You have to find the issue there. You have to find the cause for what's happening because something is going on, and I'd be willing to bet there is something deeper there when Bobby McCain was telling Landon Collins, yo, get back. This is the play. And Landon said, no, I'm good. I'm telling you there's something more there. And I'd be willing to bet the communication is dwelling from that sort of thing, in my personal opinion. Our next question is from our guy, Brandon Reinbold, Meast 21. Does Heineke keep the starting job when Fitz is healthy? Yes, I think so. I think that basically you make Heineke play himself out of this job at the moment. I think he's doing pretty well organizing the offense and getting them up and running. We haven't seen the offense move like this since Kirk was here. A lot of people will say, but he turned the football over yesterday. But there were a lot of times where his legs extend the play. They get positive yardage. They make the first down shorter for us to be able to get. The offense is humming. This is the best the offense has run since Kirk Cousins was here. I don't care if you want to debate somebody else, do it. But they're getting the ball in the playmakers' hands. They're allowing them to do something with it. The fact is the Heineke was inaccurate as all heck yesterday. But besides that, they've done a very, very good job. So Heineke keeps it. And I'd be worried, and I am concerned about Fitzpatrick this year. I'm not 100% sure if he is going to be ready to return. Ron Rivera is very reluctant to talk about Fitzpatrick returning in his press conference early in the year. So I'd be kind of concerned with that. So I think this is Heineke's job until he proves otherwise. You know what I mean? All right, now, are we tanking to secure a better draft pick? No. And I know what you mean by that because Brandon's thought process here is, why are we giving up that Hail Mary? It almost seems like they're tanking because it's like a middle school, high school, pee-wee type of play that we gave up. And I don't think that this coaching staff is even thinking about tanking or that's even in their dictionary or vocabulary. It's just things are very, very bad right now. And it's almost like a fire hose on the loose without anybody holding it. And they're trying to grab it. And it almost seems like there's 5 to 6 guys chasing this hose around to grab it, to get a hold of it, to get it under control. But it continues to fly everywhere. And this is where they got to get together as a team. And they got to nip this in the butt. And they have to find that issue. Because there is an issue in that back end, dude. And it's not okay. I don't like it at all. Now, our next question from Brandon is, what D coordinator do you want to see to replace Jack Del Rio after he gets let go in the offseason? I mean, Chris Harris is the first name that comes to mind, the secondary coach. Obviously, the secondary is not doing too well right now. But Chris Harris is obviously getting head coaching interviews in the offseason. And so he's highly respected around the league. I love Chris Harris. I would love to have him take over, obviously, if it came to that. But I don't think it will. At this time last season, we all thought Jack Del Rio sucked. You know, everyone was talking about him being a Trump supporter and everything and all that, and that being a distraction and why the defense isn't playing well. I don't find that to be the case at all. I think Jack Del Rio is going to be fine. They're going to right the ship. They're going to get this turned around. They're professionals. You got to trust them, fellas. You got to trust them. Now, our next question is Tony Shivers. DeShazier Everett and Jeremy Reeves produced when given the chance at different times last year. why can't they get in the rotation at least? Ron Rivera kind of talked about this and kind of replacing guys, and with Reeves, you'd have to bring somebody down. You can't just call up Reeves. There'd be somebody that would be taking away that roster spot, right? And so that's where you're taking away from special teams, maybe a linebacker from there, or a wide receiver for a gunner or something like that. And that's where kind of Rivera meant by that, because when you're taking somebody away from a spot like that, that could be the game-winning play for the other team, a botched special teams play. So you never know with that kind of aspect, but I agree with you. I think Reeves should be getting another shot. I do. I don't know why he hasn't. I don't know why he wasn't on the roster to start the season. I thought he earned himself that job. But look, I'm not here. I don't get paid for that. They obviously see stuff more than I do. I'm just talking about the communication, the cohesion between one another. It seemed like Reeves and Curl were in lockstep at the end of last season. They were playing well, and it seems like the opposite right now, to be perfectly honest. So I'm right there with you, Tony. I think Reeves and Everett, I'm not sure about Everett. I think Everett can stay on the special teams, but I think Reeves should get a shot just to see what he can do, man. Why not? I mean, what do we have to lose? We're going against Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. We are literally 31st in the league for defensive points allowed as a defense. Why not throw Jeremy Reeves back there at this point? I mean, how much worse can it get, to be perfectly honest with you? You know what I mean? Now, our last two questions are from Jeff Miles. He wants to know, do you see this team making a midseason trade? If so, who? I think Jordan Hicks from Arizona. He's been floated around as a guy that they're looking to expend and get away from because they drafted Isaiah Simmons. They had the new guy that they just brought in, J.J. Watt there, obviously. Chandler Jones is there as well. They have a bunch of guys there in the middle of their defenses. So Jordan Hicks is just sitting there. And if it's going to cost a 4th or 5th rounder, dude, send him over there, bring Jordan Hicks, and let's solidify the middle of this defense. Let's get a play caller in there in the middle of the field who can come in, make tackles, fill holes, and be able to clog up passing lanes in the back end. Because right now we don't have anybody that can do that, to be perfectly, Jeff. Now, his last question for us, which of the next 3 opponents do you see us standing the best chance to surprise? And that being the Chiefs, the Packers, and the Broncos. And I think it's the Broncos. You know, the Broncos are kind of built like we are in a way where you have a very, very good defense, but the offense has question marks and injuries to it with a great wide receiving core, but there's injuries to that wide receiving core. They have a young running back room there as well, but they can get going if you allow them to. Obviously, they're a great run-blocking team with that offensive line. I think it's the Broncos. I think you can get away from the Broncos. But that being said, we saw Teddy Bridgewater with the Carolina Panthers last season. And now we sliced up this defense and actually did pretty well. But that being said, that was against Dwayne Haskins leading this team at quarterback. And Taylor Heineke came in and almost won them that game. I think Denver's the best bet for us to be able to win. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Packers or something just because, you know, this is what Washington does. They lose against the worst teams and they win against the best. It doesn't make any sense. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. It's been a wild ride doing this solo. First episode I've had to do solo. I hope I did all right. Hopefully it wasn't too boring for you guys and mumbled things and kind of like said things wrong. I apologize if so. I'm trying to do my best here. I really appreciate you guys. Jeff Miles, Tony Shivers, Brandon Reinbold, to Jake Dunham, Paul Murphy, Emmanuel Chaguba, Scott Hartley, Bobby Hutton, Zach and Ian Bacon. Thank you guys so much for your questions. I can't thank you guys enough. You really helped me be able to bridge this episode through. We'll have another episode for you guys on Friday to be able to go into detail regarding this matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs and the bloodshed that everyone is already attributing that's going to happen. And look, I would go, if you're going to place a bet, I would go the under 55 points for this game with the Kansas City Chiefs and Washington football team. I would go with the under. I know everyone's going to laugh and say, well, Kansas City's going to put up 60 by themselves. That's fine. I would go with the under. I'm just saying. All right, everybody. I will see you guys on Friday. Stay safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. All right. Enjoy Monday Night Football, everybody. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!